Aaron here from Honda Pilot Overland again. I'm working on another project that I'm really excited about. Today I'm going to start putting together my rock sliders. So basically what I've done, I found a used pair of Chevy Colorado rock sliders on Facebook. I bought them for $75, and then I bought some 1x2 1/4-inch thick tubing and these 1/4-inch steel plates, and then I've got an assortment of nuts and bolts, of course, and my welder. And so I've got to figure out a way to fit these and mount these onto the Pilot. One of the challenges with these rock sliders is that they're actually too long. I'm going to be cutting them down. The final length will end up being 64 inches. But basically my first challenge is that I've got to cut the end. I've got to basically cut out a middle section, scoot them down, and do my best to weld it back together. I bought some Bondo. I'm going to see if I can, get the best beads possible, and then, just see how good I can make it. So I think I'm going to start with that right now, and then we'll figure out how we're going to mount it to the vehicle after I get that done. Now my challenge is that I've got to get this welded together, and as you can see, my cuts were not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So we get this moved over onto the concrete, we'll see how square all this is. But yeah, I know this is going to be the hardest part of the project for me, reshaping this to be a shorter rock slider. I cleaned up the edges and it's already looking a lot better, so I think I have a potential solution here. The next thing I need to do is try to strip back the paint where I'm going to weld it here. I'm going to keep these tabs on for welding purposes, but then eventually I'm going to cut them off. Alright, my welds are a lot less than desirable. In several places, I almost burnt through on the back side. This is going to be the top side. On the back side, I burnt through in 2 or 3 places. Pretty atrocious stuff. I kind of figured going into this that I wasn't going to be able to produce great looking welds, so I did buy some Bondo that I'm going to try to prep this surface for and cover over it. I also purposefully welded the additional piece here to one of the ends instead of just taking the middle and cutting out the portion to shorten it up. So yeah, this is an Aaron Goddard special here, but with the Bondo and proper prep, I might still be able to salvage this and make it look pretty good. It feels strong, but only time will tell on that. I've got lots more welding to do, and I'm pretty nervous about welding on the bars to this material because I don't want to blow through it anymore. I've switched to my smaller rods, and I've turned down the power on my welder, but I just don't have a lot of experience, and yeah, it seems like the stick welder kind of wants to burn through, but we'll keep on pressing on. I'm going to show you a little bit of a mock-up of it sitting up on the car here, and then we'll move on. I'm gonna prep the other side and try to get it to the same state. So my measurement came out pretty good, I think. Fits right in here. And I think I'm gonna make it kind of a real square so it kind of juts out, has the most protection possible. And if it ends up being strong enough, by keeping it square, I should be able to lift on it with my high lift. So in a moment, I'm gonna start working on getting the second rock slider shortened. I think I learned a lot from welding this one. I should be able to do a better job on it. At the end of the day, these projects that I do, they're my own projects, and like my skid plate, it's not the most beautiful skid plate in the world, but it does the job, and that's basically what I'm looking to do with these rock sliders. I'm looking to produce something that does the job. It might have its imperfections, but it's something that I produced, something that I fabricated, and I'm okay with that. So the next step after I get that welded together is to start thinking about how I'm gonna attach it to the vehicle. And I've put a lot of thought into it, and in some ways it'd be easiest to just weld it up there, but the idea that I've come up with at this point is as follows. On the outside of the car, underneath where the rocker is, underneath the door, there are 2 bolt holes. Basically there's the existing bolts for any kind of steps that the pilot would have. What I'm planning on doing is drilling a hole in between those 2 holes. It looks like that area is reinforced a little bit, so it should work better for this project. And basically I'm going to use the same technique that I used to attach my skid plate to my car. I'm going to drill a hole that's smaller than this flange. I'm going to push this nut up into the hole, and I'm going to weld this to the body of the car. Then basically, this is upside down, but this will have a hole in it as well. And this big, I don't know if that's 3/4. It's bigger than 1/2 inch. So I guess maybe that's 5/8. Terrible with sizes here, guys. But anyways, I'm going to drill a hole through here, and that's what's going to hold the rock slider up near the rocker panel. So the only other thing I need to do is think about my brackets for on the inside. And what I've decided to do is I bought these plates. They're what are they? 5x5 plates with pre-1/2 inch holes drilled in them. They just were kind of the cheapest 1/4 inch plate steel I could find, and then it just was a bonus that they had the holes already drilled in. So as of right now, what I'm thinking is I'm going to cut this plate in half. I'm going to weld 1/2 of it to the end of this tube, and the other half I'm going to weld these bolts into it. Yeah, I think for right now what I'm planning on doing is tack welding this side, and then cutting the head off, and then welding the back side too. That's my plan. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but basically I want these 2 pieces to mount flush, and then I want to be able to take, a washer and a 1/2 inch nut, and then have the tube coming out of here. So that's my plan. Underneath the car, the driver's side has a lot more going on than the passenger side. I'm going to start on the passenger side. Alright, so here's a bracket from start to finish. So I'm just measuring 2.5 inches across so I can cut the bracket in half. And then I draw a line across there. Alright, and then I found that this portion of the rock slider that I cut off works really well to hold this plate. So take the bolt, stick it through. Actually, I've got to prep the surface of this real quick. So fastening it this way lets you tack it on this side, and then you can weld on the inside the other side. All right, there's one finished bracket. You just need to make 6 of these. All right, just like that, I've got 6 brackets made, and I got better as I went, so it didn't take quite as long for the rest. I'm under my car now. I've got one of the cross brackets welded up, and basically what I'm working to do right now, I've also notched this joint right here, so I'm working to weld a nut to that hole space right there. I'm gonna weld my cross member bracket to there. I'm working to just kind of tack it up right now. I've had to get kind of creative to weld this flange nut up on this hole. I've decided to mount the flange nut on the outside instead of the inside. A couple reasons. One, drilling over a 1/2 inch is kind of difficult for me. I'd have to go to the store. 2, with the pinch weld the way it is, it wouldn't matter if I got it inside that hole or not, so I'm just going to weld it to the outside. Now what I'm dealing with is welding underneath the car is kind of, you know, tight space, so I'm going to use this jack here, and I'm going to kind of use it to jack up this nut with a bolt in it, and then I'm going to put my welding clamp on this bolt. All right, it's welded on. In typical fashion for me, it's not the most beautiful, but we'll see if it'll work. with my head gasket repair, it's been a little while since I've been able to work on my rock slider project. I'm gonna show you where I'm at with it though. So I've got 3 of the mounts on this side, and I'm working to try to fabricate the mounts. What I did was I held the rock slider on top of the bars right here, and I went underneath and I drew an approximate line and kind of etched out markings to help me make this cut right here. From there, I did that to all 3 brass brackets, measuring with room, that way I can cut in. From there, I kept putting the bar up and making little adjustments with my grinder. Be careful so you don't damage your slider there. I left a tag end off the end of each one of these, and with the idea that I could hammer it up. My curves aren't very precise, so I'm not gonna be able to weld a whole lot around the sides. But what I'm gonna do to make up for that is I'm gonna weld a piece of metal from here up on top of the tube and then on the sides. I'm basically just gonna reinforce it once I get it tacked on, and we'll see if it holds up. As far as this DIY build goes, the only spot that gave me a little bit of trouble was in the back here. This portion of the subframe or the body isn't very flat, so I had to weld some extra layers of metal. Once this bolt is holding the weight up and these bolts are basically just an anchor down, it's incredibly strong on the end here. Question is how strong can I get the rock sliders welded on? And then the other question is, how much is the vehicle going to hang up on these? I'm contemplating buying some metal. It'd be a really nice place to put a slider at some point in the future. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to keep working. I've got a trip coming up soon, and I want to get these projects done if possible. Alright, I just accomplished a really big step here. I tack welded the rock slider. Now I'm going to take it off the car, and I'm going to finish welding as much as I can support around the rock slider. Try to make it as strong as possible. Alright, so here she is, all painted up. My first rock slider. The project's 50% done. I'm going to bolt this up to the car in just a moment. Just note to oneself, when you weld, some of the metal will flex just slightly, probably from the contracting and cooling of the metal. I was able to get it back on, but I did have to use a pry bar on the back support. So my welds don't look amazing. They're not like professional welds. That being said, I'm gonna roll with it. We'll see if we break it, but I'm pretty excited. So I just have to do the other side now, so probably do that off camera and post this video. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.